Turn around.
Tonight, it's nice and warm outside, but I'm glad, we filled up this room. I want to thank Deb Hoffman. Where is she at? Is she in here? Oh, there she is, for letting us use the school. And then I saw her compadre, Becky Galvan. Where is she at? Back in the back. These are the two principals of the schools that our kids will go to. So she's at Midvale. But I want to just quickly say something about Miss Mimi Block, who I'm just going to quickly introduce. She'll introduce Gloria, but I had asked Mimi over a year ago, actually almost a year and a half ago, when I started on this project, if she would work with us on it, because I was one of her students. Gloria is actually one of my advisors, and I was one of her students at the university when I was there. But I knew Mimi's background in early education, and that's not a natural field for me. And so I wanted to get as many people as I could to surround me, including some teachers and some folks that we've reached out to at Midvale, Leah, and others, who this is their natural field, to make sure that we would develop a school that would really be successful for the parents and the kids who are coming to our center. But as we were doing this, I also knew that we needed some long-term professional development for our teachers, things that we could consistently do to continue to feed and them new information, new ideas, allow them to network with each other, with others outside of the school. And I had this pie-in-the-sky idea of how that could happen. And then I started visiting a lot of schools in the community. I visited 26 preschools in Dane County, and about 21 of them outside of Dane County, a couple outside other states. And I saw everywhere I went, that teachers can't get out of their buildings. There's not a healthy substitute core in the early childhood field. In some of these places, teachers don't really get paid that much, so a lot of times they'll leave school and have to go to second jobs. So I saw a lot of barriers to teachers getting the kind of professional support that they needed. And this is just a piece of what we're trying to build towards today. But in looking at that, I went to other schools, and some of the schools that charged more and they had a longer history, they were able to provide some things internally, especially if they were a Montessori or a Waldorf or a Reggio Emilia school. But then there were a lot of other schools that just didn't. So I really wanted our teachers to be able to work with their teachers at these schools and really create this kind of robust exchanges. As I was walking into classrooms, I thought in every classroom, like, which one would I want my child in? And I saw a lot of schools, a lot of classrooms like that, but as I talked to those teachers about, could you ever get involved in helping to train or coach, most of them said, probably not, because of the lack of time, lack of resources, those type of things. So when we came up with the Institute idea, at first it was to just provide education for our own teachers and get as many people as we could get involved in that. But then as we were going around doing this other work, we saw an opportunity here to not just do it for our teachers, but do it for everyone. So the Institute for Early Education that Mimi and Diana Grove, where is Diana sitting at? In the back over here, one of our great supporters. She's a mindfulness teacher and a registered nurse. The thing that those two have helped us put together here is something that we want to actually grow. So we want it to become like a training environment, a networking environment, an information sharing environment over in the future. So I won't go any more into that. I'll just introduce Mimi, who is a emeritus professor at the University of Wisconsin in early childhood education, teacher education, and multicultural education. Also, she and I was fortunate to know her when I was a part of a student group on campus, the Civil Rights Defense Coalition, and we were hammering the school, university back in the 90s. And we came up with this great plan, one of which became the People program on campus, and the other was the SHAPE program. And so we wanted to ensure that students on campus could go into the schools. Lincoln was one of the first schools, actually, where students came from campus to actually tutor children in reading and math. So Mimi was the one that stepped up and said, hey, I'd love to be a part of this, and became the guiding professor who actually developed the class and did more than that. So we go way back. But I'll introduce her, and she can come up and introduce Gloria. So thank you.
My pleasure to be voluntarily helping out at One City, which is a fantastic preschool that Kaleem and his staff, Carol's right here, Carol Spoor. And I think, are there any other staff members here?
Our newest member is in the back.
Althea, stand up.
Althea.
Althea. Have started. And if you can imagine a retired professor being able to spend quite a bit of time with 1- and 2-year-olds and really enjoying it, I was able to do that. So, you know, if you ask what you can do in retirement, there are a variety of different things, but one of them is to spend some time back again with great teachers and children. Thank you, Kaleem. He sort of asked Diana and myself to organize an institute, and the only directions for the moment were to start to have approximately once a month great speakers, open to the wide community, and well advertised, which we're still learning to do, but Kaleem knows very well how to do that, and to try to bring attention to a variety of things related to younger children, both the provision of child care and early education, the teaching of it, the transitions from home to school, which Gloria will be talking about tonight, and a variety of other things. The next talk will be in February, and that will be advertised. I might mention it at the end, but for the moment, I'd like to thank Gloria, who is a colleague of mine, and Gary Price, who's also a professor emeritus in early childhood, from the Department of Curriculum and Instruction. Gloria is also the Kellner Family Distinguished Professor in Urban Education in both the Departments of Curriculum and Instruction, Ed Policy Studies, Educational Leadership and Policy Analysis, and African American Studies at UW-Madison. She was the chair of the Department of Curriculum and Instruction until very recently, and has served as the Assistant Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs at UW-Madison also. I'm going to say a little bit more about her. Just, I don't know how many people have been in attendance. How many people have heard her talk here in town? Quite a few of you. Okay, so maybe she doesn't need a long introduction, but I'm going to give a little bit more, okay? She was it's not easy to get this position, and it's not fun necessarily when you have it, but she was the 2005-2006 president of the American Ed Research Association, which is an organization dealing with educational research around the world with, I think, 25,000 members that convenes on an annual basis. At that 2006 presentation, she did another outstanding presentation, which was called From the Achievement Gap to the Education Debt, Understanding Achievement in U.S. Schools, which is online somewhere, and it was a fantastic talk. In her classic book, Dream Keepers, Successful Teachers of African American Children, she examined and continues to examine the pedagogical practices of teachers who are successful with African American students. Now that sounds odd, but until Gloria's book, I can tell you that somebody's reminding me of a meeting tomorrow. Let's take that away. Until then, a lot of people looked at what constituted or what caused failure. So Gloria's book was groundbreaking for a variety of reasons. Since then, she has also published a variety of other books, Crossing Over to Canaan, The Journey of New Teachers in Diverse Classrooms, Beyond the Big House, African American Educators on Teacher Education, and 3 other books that she's done more recently. She's edited 6 other books, and so that's about 12 books, and has about 100 journal articles and book chapters also. She's the former editor of the American Ed Research Journal. And then I wanted to just highlight a few other things so that you know that we're very proud to have her here tonight as one of the Institute's early speakers. And I know she's a challenging speaker. She's not going to be, she'll be filled with jokes, but also some serious thoughts, let me just say. Okay, so She's the 2015 winner of the Social Justice and Education Award given by the American Ed Research Association, which is also not an easy prize to get or an award. She's the 2012 winner of the Brock International Prize in Education. She has a variety of honorary degrees from different universities in Sweden and Spain and elsewhere. In the spring of 2005, she was elected to the National Academy of Education and the National Society for the Study of Education. She is a 2008 recipient of the state of Wisconsin's Back to Martin Luther King Jr. Heritage Award, and also the Teachers College Columbia University 2008 Distinguished Service Medal. She was elected to Kappa Delta Pi International Education. I didn't know anything about this, so I thought this was cool. Honor Society comprised of 60 living distinguished scholars. That's not just education scholars. Former laureate members include John Dewey, Eleanor Roosevelt, and others. And she is also an NEA fellow charged with providing advice on the Achievement Gap Initiative. That's a National Education Association, and was a panelist on the White House's African American Educational Excellence Initiative's Essence Festival. She has received several recent Lifetime Distinguished Achievement Awards, and in addition to all of the above, she's a member of the Board of Directors of the Urban League in Madison, a member of a variety of other boards, including the Children's Museum, has been a past member, a long-term member of the Susan G. Komen for the Cure organization. And in 2007, which I also didn't know, I should have known, was ordained as a deacon in her church, only the second woman in the church's 105-year history. Is that Mount Zion? Is that right? Yes. She's a 49-year member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and I know she's proud of that because I see her pictures on Facebook on that all the time. And she's also a long-term colleague of mine. I'm very proud that she's able to talk to us and very interested in this talk related to younger children stepping across transition into kindergarten. My colleague, Professor Gloria Ladson.
Well, thank you, Mimi, and thank you for those very generous words. I'm going to speak loudly. They asked if I wanted a microphone. I really don't, because I feel like this is an intimate enough environment, and I don't really want to be too formal. You know, I have a lot of demands on my time in which it has to be formal, it has to be a certain amount of time, you got to sign a release, the people got to take pictures of it. I feel like I'm home. And so, but I have some slides, and the slides are pretty much so that I don't ramble too much, because I will ramble. So the slides will keep me somewhat grounded. I'm glad to see all of you out here. Some of my students are here. They were just in class yesterday. It seemed like y'all be running away. 2 days in a row. But first of all, let me just find out who in the room has young children. Okay. You are my target audience. You are the people that I want to talk to, so everybody else is eavesdropping. I'm talking to parents of young children. My youngest grandchild are my twins who are freshmen in high school, so I'm away from that right now. And you're talking about what I put on Facebook. What about my granddaughter?
I was going to say that as part of your,
My oldest granddaughter is the starting forward for UCLA's women's basketball team. So when you're watching them go into the NC2A and they say Monique Billings, you go say, oh, that's Gloria's granddaughter. All right, so I call this stepping across, transitioning to kindergarten. Deb, can you give me the first slide, please? Okay. I want to start with what I want to call the readiness ritual, because there's all this talk about you need to be ready. You need to be ready. And we've reified this notion of being ready. First click for me. And we almost, this is the question that I have. Who's supposed to be ready? Another click. Of course, we think of the children needing to be ready. But what does it mean to be ready to begin? Really, you're beginning. So readiness is not just one fixed idea. It's not just caught up in language skills. And often that's what we hear when we bring our kids to school. Well, they're not ready yet. It's not just their social emotional skills. One of the things we know about development is that it happens at different rates for different children. And anybody who has more than one child has already seen that. So let's not pretend that every 5-year-old is supposed to be at the same place. They will be at different places. So I want to argue it is not just children who should be ready. The parents need to be ready. You know, sometimes it's hard to let that baby go. So what we might be conveying to them is, well, you're supposed to go, but I don't want you to go. Oh, you're going to go to school next month. It's going to be hard. Now, he loves Mom. So if this is going to make you upset, Mom, well, I'm not going to act like I'm ready. But if Mom is saying, I'm excited. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. I can't wait. Which is what I said all 4 times. I can't wait for that. Let's go, everybody, let's go. You know? But sometimes we have very mixed emotions about turning our children over to an institution. So we have to get ready. The community needs to be ready. The people who are surrounding you in your neighborhood have to recognize, okay, this youngster is starting to mature a little bit, and they're moving forward. All of my children are kids that were off the growth chart, which meant they were bigger than whoever makes these things say they're supposed to be. So they always looked older than they were. And I was always in a situation where I was trying to convey to people, she's really not that old, right? So I have a son who was 6'7", one who was 6'5", one who was 6 feet tall. My daughter's 6 feet tall. That's why I have a granddaughter who's 6'4", right? I'm the only shrimp in the family. But don't let the size fool you. They know. They know. If I had to get on a step ladder, I could handle it, right? But because my kids were bigger, the community has some different expectations. So here is my 3-year-old who looks like a 5-year-old seeing somebody walk in somewhere and going, he's bald. Well, 3-year-olds would say that. But it would seem rude as a 5-year-old, you know, or she's fat. That's what a 3-year-old might say. So the community has to be ready. Okay. And the schools need to be ready. It's not the issue of just having the kids ready for school. Schools must be ready for the students. And they must be ready for each group of students who comes. There's no one way to get ready. Every group of students poses a new set of challenges and opportunities. So getting ready, this readiness ritual. And I want to point out that for the most part, and I've got this sheet in my hand because I pulled it from the NAEYC website on where they stand on school readiness. And they make this point that, you know, basically being ready means you've met whatever the age criteria is that your state has set. Being ready means, in this state, being 5 by when? September 1? Is that our cutoff date? What, is later now? Okay. But I moved here from California. The cutoff date was December 1. So that means you have 4-year-olds who are entering California schools. My oldest boy's birthday is December 2. So here, stay home. No, December. So these are arbitrary ideas, though. There's nothing natural about deciding that 5 is the time. And I know both Mimi and Gary know we've traveled the world. This is not the same age all around the world. Our colleagues in Scandinavia think we're crazy. Why are you sending kids to school so early? Their kids go to school somewhere, mandatory school, somewhere around 7 or 8 years old. They look at us like we're wasting a perfectly good childhood. Why are you making them go to school? And if this were a problem, it would show up in their performance, but they do just as well, if not better. So this is a very arbitrary decision, 5. But it is a decision, and if it's 5, it's 5. That's it. It's not 5 and able to read 3 books, 5 and able to recite the Gettysburg Address. It's pretty much 5, and maybe can you make it to the bathroom 3 out of 5 times. I'm not gonna make it 5 out of 5 times because people in my age category ain't making it 5 out of 5 times. You know, them Depends is in the store for a reason. It's not a whole bunch of big babies somewhere. So I think we spend a lot of time trying to make something seem natural and fixed. We made a decision about. Okay, can I get the next slide? So let me just say transitions are hard. And in full disclosure, I'm focusing on transition as a part of my work with Justified Anger. Kaleem and Pastor G came to me a couple years ago asking if I would work on the education subcommittee. And I told them, I said, you know, I'm a very task-oriented person. I've lived a very frustrated life both here and in Palo Alto where I came from, because those are 2 cities, both Madison and Palo Alto are process cities. So I keep saying I'm a product-oriented person that has gotten dropped down in process environments, because you know, in Madison, you can't violate the process. You ain't got to produce nothing. Ain't nothing gonna have to change. But here's the question they will ask you at Madison. Well, was the process upheld? See, I have to look at this transition every September. These are grown A people being taken to school. And here's what I say. Is it gonna be okay? Okay. This is a person that has proven their ability to get into a world-class institution, and the transition is hard for their parents. This is a hard transition. I had to do this twice with my parents. Hated doing it. Both of them developing some level of dementia. They could not stay in the house. They could not live alone. I could not move back to Philadelphia, so I had to put in place care. It was not easy. And then, of course, the ultimate transition. We all gonna go through this. There's no getting around it. So if all of these adult transitions are hard, can you imagine the transition for a 5-year-old? Everybody has trouble with transitions. Okay, next slide. And there are no hard fixed rules about transitions. Another click. So I want you to try to use what I have to offer to you tonight as kind of a guide. Not like, oh, that lady said we had to have this. No, we're talking in general about some things, and you will see different kinds of responses. My kids are clumped together, the boys, like little stair steps, one after another, and then there's a big gap, and the princess showed up, which explains the color of my hair. She once told me, Mom, you need to dye your hair. I said, sweetheart, this is not my hair. This is your hair. I did not have this before I met you. And so there were things that I could do with my boys. First of all, I was much younger and quicker and sharper and hip. You know, I was that mama, right? And so they couldn't pull things over on me. But my daughter, oh, she's a real piece of work here, right? So all the things that I use with them didn't work with her. Okay. So I want you to try to do some of the activities that we talk about as part of your everyday life or fun experiences that you plan with your child. In other words, I don't want you to leave here and say, okay, now we got to sit down and do this transition activity. No. No. Look for those opportunities to insert them into what you're already doing. Okay. If your child lags behind in some areas, don't worry. All children are unique, and they grow and develop at different rates. So I mentioned that my youngest grandchildren are a set of twins, a girl and a boy. He didn't say a word for about 4 years. He didn't need to. He had his own interlocutor. He would just look at you and you say, huh, what is it, Martin? And she'd go, he said he wants some of that. So at some level, we were worried about his development. But as a ninth grader, I mean, he's in geometry and top of the class. So I want you to relax if what you see in your youngster doesn't necessarily look like what you see in a neighbor or a friend, you know, a cousin, a relative. Kids are going to grow at different rates. Okay. So one of the areas that you want to help get your kids ready in is good health and well-being. Next week. You know, this is funny. Eats a balanced diet. Well, you got to serve a balanced diet for them to eat one. And I'm laughing because I'm a mother who has always worked. Always. My youngest son came home one time and said, Mom, are you ever going to be one of them moms, you know, that when you come home, you have milk and homemade cookies? I said, no, baby. Never. Never, ever, ever. He said, okay. I remember he was in preschool, and they were doing a little unit on the family, and they were talking about roles. Now, this kid is almost 49 years old, so we're stuck in them old gender role notions. But they were talking about roles in the family. So the teacher asked them, well, what do mothers do? And the people were raising their hand. Mothers cook. Oh, mothers sew. Mothers clean. And my son is looking at them like, what? And so the teacher kind of picked up and said, Kevin, what's the matter? He said, mothers don't do that. So, well, what do mothers do? They go to meetings. They write papers. So the eating a balanced diet may not be on your child, it may be on you. But if it's on your child, you know, some of our kids are picky. My boys weren't picky. You put it out there, they eat it. They didn't care. But my princess, well, what is this? Well, don't make that touch. Well, I don't like that. So getting the food in her was harder. And so one of the ways in which you want to think about making sure your kids get a balanced diet is how do you make the food appealing enough? How do you get them to choose the carrot sticks, you know, over chips? Well, the easy way is not to have the chips in the house. But then that's on us, you know, and I love a Dorito. Don't tell me not to have a Dorito in the house. But that's the kind of things that's beyond the kids' control. Okay, next. That they receive regular medical and dental care and have had all the necessary immunizations. Now, again, part of this is the state's rule. There are families who don't want their kids immunized. And the state can't make them immunize them. But if indeed you're going to send your kid to school without those immunizations, you need to be prepared with the kind of affidavit that said this is why. Okay. But they also need really regular medical and dental. And you know, we're right in the midst of trying to figure out what's going to happen with our health care. Some years ago, I gave a presentation for principals and superintendents nationally, and this man came late to the presentation, and he apologized and said, I'm sorry, but I had to go to a youngster in my district died, and I had to go to the funeral, 15 years old. And I was like, wow. Now, I'm from Philly, West Philly. So when you tell me somebody beyond younger than 80 has died, I just know they've been stabbed, shot, you know, whatever. This youngster died from dental caries, cavities. He had not been to see a dentist. Now here's the thing. This man was superintendent of Montgomery County, Maryland Public Schools. It's one of the richest communities in the world. It's the one that sits right outside of DC. You know, it's in that Beltway community, Chevy Chase, Silver Springs, you heard those? Where people are rich. But he didn't have any dental services. And so Carrie got infected, he had an abscess, it erupted and the infection spread through his body and killed him. So we're not talking in Bangladesh, we're not talking in South Sudan, we're talking about in Montgomery County, Maryland. So this medical and dental thing is important. Make sure your kids can actually see and hear. So those kinds of screenings, sometimes our kids aren't doing well in school because they're not physically up to snuff, and we don't know it. You know, if you're a little kid and you have eye problems, you don't really know you have eye problems. You think the world is fuzzy, all right? And you don't know to say, I can't see that in the same way. Okay. The boys, everybody in the tub right now. Everybody, let's get ready for the story. Okay, good night. We were just like the Waltons. Good night, so-and-so. Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad. Good night, Martin. Good night, Chuck. Good night, Kevin. Good night, John Boy. Good night. Jessica? Why do I have to go to bed now? Okay, it's late. Well, I'm not sleepy. Yeah, but you really should go to bed. She was a very difficult kid to get into bed, which meant she was difficult to get up in the morning. I mean, it was so bad that there would be those mornings when she woke up. I had literally dressed her while she was laying there. And we'd be rushing to get to school because she didn't get enough rest. So that really involves making sure that you have a set time and a routine. Go ahead. Next one. That they run, jump, and play outdoors and do other things that develop their large muscle as well and provide some exercise for them. I know in Wisconsin there's this temptation to think, okay, once it starts getting cold, let's not go outside. No, first of all, they little kids, they don't even understand cold. They just know, just get me in the thing so I can go outside. I really actually thought I could convince my daughter to go to college back in California. And she came out to visit, and she's like, oh my God, it's so hot out there, I don't see how people can stand that. So our kids are used to this. They should be outside. And the large muscle development is important for young children. Okay, I think there's one more. And then give them an opportunity to work puzzles, to scribble, to do colors and paint and other activities that help them develop those small muscles. And if you have boys, what's likely to happen is they're probably going to be a little bit further ahead on the large muscle things because they're doing trucks and running around. And if you have girls, a lot of times, because of the way in which we gender stereotype so many things, they're more likely to be doing the little sit at the table thing, color. But they both need to develop both large and small muscles, and so you need to give them plenty of opportunities to do both. Okay. Issue of social and emotional readiness. I'm actually now just been appointed to the National Commission on Social, Emotional, and Academic Development that's being headed up by Linda Darling Hammond and former Michigan Governor Engler, and I'm on this council of the distinguished scientists. And we're really trying to figure out what is it that we can tell the public about social and emotional development, because we spend so much time focusing on math and reading. And yet we understand that these are whole people. And it's their social and emotional development that we haven't given much attention to. So, you should ask these questions of yourself. Is my child learning to be confident enough to explore and try new things? We've all seen that little quiet, shy kid that hides behind mom's skirt. It's difficult if you go to a family gathering, all the kids are playing, but that's the one that wants to sit on your lap. So part of what you have to do is help get them more confident. And that might mean you have to stop having to talk, you have to get out the Big West game, you got to go over there with the rest of the kids to let your kid know it's okay to be with kids. It's okay to try new things. Okay, next bullet. Is my child learning to work well alone and do many tasks for herself? See, a lot of times, I'll talk about me. I just want it done, so if you just bring it to me, I'll do it. As opposed to saying, well, try it. See if you can do it. And yeah, it's going to take time and patience. But I think a lot of times we are quick to fix things for our kids. Just give it to them, right? Because we're busy. But let them try things, okay? Is my child having enough opportunities to be with other children and learning to cooperate with them? This is a big thing for me. I did not care when my kids went to preschool. I didn't care if they didn't learn one letter, one number, one color, one shape. I said, can y'all civilize these people? That's all I need. And my daughter being, they went to school in California. We were in the Stanford area. We have these, top of the line, research-based preschool. I didn't want them in any of that. And I told them, I said, I don't want her near a computer. I don't want no pencils in her hand. She needs to learn how to be a human being and learn that there are other people in the world. That was my big goal. And for a lot of kids, they're the apple of mommy's eye. In my case, daddy's princess. Can't nobody touch her. Can't nobody do nothing for her. But she had to learn there are other kids in the world. I'll tell this story. Are you videotaping me? I'll try to clean the story up. But I have a friend whose mom is a kindergarten teacher in Chicago. And she said to me, I finally figured out it's time for me to get out of the game. She said, because this year, kindergarten, kids all came in, and she worked at one of the schools in the community that had a housing project. So the kids arrive, and first day there's some crying, but we're making it through. But there's one little boy who is in the class who is just, looked like he's bewildered. The whole time there, he's just almost like scratching his head, like, what in the world? So at the end of the day, as the kids were being dismissed, that little boy hung around, and he tugged on the edge of her skirt, and he said, teacher, can I talk to you? She said, yes, sweetheart. Yeah, what is it? He said, okay, I know who I am. And I know who you are. Well, who are the rest of these MFs? Now, I didn't say the word, but he said the word. He said the word. And she's like, okay, I'm done. I'm too old for the game. Now, clearly confused about the environment. Because a lot of times what we talk about is going to school and the teacher, and the teacher, and the teacher. We don't say the other children. Think about it. For many of our kids, it's the first time they've had to share the attention of the adult. So you got 20, 25 other children, and your needs are not getting immediately met like they are when you're at home, or if you've been in a small preschool environment. Okay. Are they curious and motivated to learn? In other words, they want to know what stuff is. What's that? What's that? Can I have that? What's that? What's that? Now, when I grew up, we'd ask that all the time. My grandfather would say, ain't none of your business. That's the wrong answer. I know that's what you want to say. But really, you have to help them and have them understand it's okay to be curious. It's okay to want to know what something is. Okay. And as my child learning to finish tasks, and I gave the example of picking up toys, because that's the hardest one. They will get in that toy box, they will play with everything, and then when they're tired of it, they want to walk away. You really do have to say, we had a great time playing today, now let's clean up. And it may just start with you saying, you have to pick up at least 2 toys, right? Maybe not everything, because it might seem overwhelming. But you go through this process where they understand that you need to finish a task. You start it, you need to finish it. Okay. Are they learning to use self-control? At 5. So what does self-control look like in a 5-year-old? It's not necessarily being able to wait long periods. It's not necessarily being totally patient. But can they figure out that, okay, I'm not getting what I want, and I might be a little angry, but it's not the time to fall out on the floor, right? It's not the time to be holding my breath till I turn blue. It's not the time. Can they exercise some examples or some aspect of self-control? Okay. Are they able to follow simple instructions? Now, the great thing about 5 years old, they want to. Everybody wants to do the dishes when they're 5. Look for them when they're 11, 12. My hand is cut, Mom. You know, that's going to get in there and it's going to burn. I can't do it. But when they are young, they're willing to do it. So let them do particularly the non-consequential ones. What we find is that kids from middle-income households get treated like they know how to do stuff even when they don't. Whereas many of the working-class families and poorer families will correct kids rather than let them explore. So, case in point, letting a very young child make the bed. Okay, it's not a big deal if it's lumps and bumps in the bed. Just let them try it. And then praise them. When they say, the bed is made, you go, ooh, look at mama, baby, look at this. Look at this, where's my phone? Let me take a picture of this, look at this. That level of excitement will push them towards trying to do it better the next time, the next time, and the next time. When my boys were 8, 9 years old, trust me, I did not have no worksheet for how to mow the lawn. You know, there was no circle the nice lawn. That's not helping me. It's get out there and push the mower. Now, they hacked it up the first couple times. But we still said, ooh, look at here, look at here. Look, I'm going to call Grandma and tell her, you mowed the lawn. Guess who mowed the lawn? Because we want to push them towards competence. We don't want them to be afraid to try. Okay. There are also issues of language and general knowledge readiness. So my child, if we can, has a lot of opportunities to play. What I think most of us forget is that children's play is their work. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to play. They're supposed to get up in the morning, eat, head off to school, and play. Sum total of the job description of a 5-year-old. So we got to give them lots of chances to play. Okay? You read to them every day. Doesn't have to be a big old production. Doesn't have to be, oh gosh, I got to read this book. I'm known as sort of the book lady with all of my friends with young kids, because I don't give people clothes, I don't give them money, I don't give them toys, because I know all that stuff is going to go away. But I give them books. My own grandchildren get books. In fact, when my twins were very young and we had moved to Madison by then, I used to record the books. I would buy the books, record them, send them the cassette, send them the book. And I remember the first time I got off the plane and I said, oh, here's my babies. And my granddaughter said, a pig a pancake. Because it's like she had listened to that story so many times that the pig a pancake lady showed up. So they get it. They get it. So maybe all you're going to read to them is the cereal box. Maybe you're just going to read some signs around the neighborhood. But read to them. Okay. Do they have access to books and other reading materials? One of the wonderful things about being in South Madison is we've got a great library. We have a great library. The Goodman Library is one of the best gifts that the South Madison community. So make sure they have access to books and other things to read. Okay. Okay. And we're monitoring the television viewing by an adult. And one of the challenges, I think, for this one is that a lot of our kids experience their early education or their early care in family daycare settings. Stay with grandma. And grandma got to see her stories. Y'all need to be quiet, because I got to see my stories. You know, that's not exactly the best environment for a little kid. Just sitting and watching. And I know a lot of us have used the TV as our babysitter. Now we have other screens. We got iPads, we got computers. They may interact with these things in their mind, but they need more active interaction. They need more people interaction. So this is an interesting one. I knew that my son was a good parent when I went to visit when his kids were little, and it was nap time, and he had these 3 kids, the twins, and their sister's 19 months older than them. And it was nap time, and their mom said, okay, it's nap time, everybody choose your place. So all of the kids get to choose where they want to take their nap, right? Geez, you know, this is a real mother, right? Everybody got their special blanket, and they go get their little blanket, and so somebody's going in the playroom, somebody else is going to take their nap in their room, and one of the twins says she wants to go, I want to go in your room. She says, okay. So they go to mom and dad's room, and she's up there maybe 5 minutes. And she comes down, and her mom says, what are you doing down here? What's wrong? And she said, there was something on that TV I'm not supposed to see. And I'm like, woo, y'all are good parents. I said, because I know if I had sent y'all in the room and seen something, y'all would have never told me nothing. Y'all would watched the whole thing, right? But that's become a kind of pattern in that household that there's certain things as a child you're not supposed to see. And it's not being mean, it's that I care for you. And I want to make sure that you don't look at that, because that's not for a child. Okay. Are they encouraged to ask questions? You know the favorite question of early childhood, right? Why? Why? And I can tell you, if there had been somebody monitoring my parenting behavior, y'all wouldn't know me standing here right today. I have my arrest record from CPS. Because I got frustrated with the whys. But why? But why? But it's important that they ask the questions. I now know you can say, you know, I don't know. Rather than feeling like you have to have all the answers. Okay. And that they have opportunity to notice similarities or differences. How many people grew up watching Sesame Street? Or have raised your kids watching? One of these things is not like the other. That's all that is. Can you tell which things are similar, what are different? Okay. Continuing with things that our children should do, are encouraged to sort and classify. So again, let's not make this like homework. Let's not suck all the fun out of this. But if you're in the supermarket and you got that baby in that cart, you can say blue every time you see a blue thing, right? Or they're sitting in that car seat. Say red every time you see a red car. We're just trying to get them to learn how to categorize, because categorization is important for literacy learning. Okay. They're learning to write their name and address. I didn't say completed. I said learning to. Learning to. So that's one of the things you know, it's not a big deal if they don't get it. But you give them an opportunity to try. First by showing them their name. This is your name, right? And then you place their name on their books and different strategic places. Okay. They're learning to count and play counting games. And you know, most kids will grab this, right? Put it in a song. You know? The hand clapping, patty cake type games where they get to say those numbers. They're learning to identify the shapes and the colors. You know, literally asking, what's your favorite color, right? Okay. They have opportunities to draw, to dance, to listen to, and make music. And making music is not that hard. It is not going to the music store and buying a clarinet, okay? It could be just a oatmeal or a grits box and a stick. So those are the kinds of readiness things and stuff that help the transition. Just want you to remember that transitions are hard for everybody at all junctures of our life. And that it's not just the kids that have to get ready. Parents got to get ready. The community has to get ready. The school has to get ready. And so what I've shared with you are actually things that are all available from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. That's really just their checklist. So you can go online and find them. I could send you a copy of the checklist, Mimi, you've got it. If people want to, and so if you're not a parent, maybe you're a grandparent, but you know you've got a grandchild coming up, you can share it with their parents so that they can begin to make sure that their kids have a good experience and a good transition. I'm excited when I see young kids go to school because they're just bubbling, they're ready to go. It's something that we do to them once they get here that kind of takes that light out. So hopefully these were some ideas and you can think about how you get your own kids ready. If you are a teacher, are these kinds of activities and opportunities that I've provided for kids that maybe didn't have those opportunities? Am I making my space a welcoming space with the presumption that everybody who has walked through the door has met the criteria for attendance? There are 5. End of story. Okay, thank you very much.
My name is Gloria Simmons, and I'm currently a PhD student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I'm a senior TA in the African Cultural Studies Department.
Becky Fatufaito, I'm a 4K teacher at Orchard Ridge Elementary School on the far west south side.
I'm Caitlin Gibson. I am a teacher, 4K teacher at Frank Alice, which is on the east side.
My name's Theodore Yancey. I came out today because I have 2 young children at One City.
I'm Kyle. I'm an elementary principal right now for the Pecatonica School District.
Well, I have a nephew. He's about a year and a half old. And so most of my focus with my research has been about higher education, but I'm starting to realize that the problems and the successes, they begin very, very early on. And so I wanted to think about child development from my nephew's perspective and where he is, and then also think about how that relates to the students that I hope to help in higher education and how some of the outreach that we do could start in the K-12 level, even if we're thinking about students in higher education as well.
I think I've really appreciated, because I feel like there were a lot of good questions as far as like being ready. And we get that from parents all the time, like, my child's not ready. I'm so worried about my child being ready for kindergarten. And I kind of, in the past few years, have taken a little step back and just said, okay, like, kind of what Gloria is saying, like, what is ready? Like, your kid is developing, they're learning. It's just not like Jackie learns, or it's not how I learn, and that's okay. What's so wrong about that? So I think it's just getting past the whole idea of like developmental milestones and you need to be here at this time and that time and this, and it's like, just be okay with that your child's learning and that they're going to get there and they're going to be successful. So I think I just had a parent meeting, and she's so worried that her child's not writing his name yet, and I'm like, he's 4 and it's November, like, it's okay, like, I'm not worried. And so what if he's not doing it by the end of the year? He's going to get there eventually. And I really appreciated that part of her presentation, because it's like, I think everyone needs to hear that at every age. Like, even when you're 29 years old and you're like, why am I not being able to do this? Like, it's okay.
I was just looking to see what things I can apply at home, that will help my kids be ready for, going into kindergarten. Very informative. Found some great things that I'm going to use to, again, help the development of my children at home so that I can be more well informed when they do get ready to go into kindergarten. So I thought it was great.
I think it was probably one of the things that she opened with, talking about, when we want our kids to be ready for school. And what does that really mean? Are we ready for them? I think is the more important question, because that, in my opinion, is the role of schools, is to be ready for kids so then we can help support them, not so they have to meet a certain set of criteria and expectations for us, but that we're ready to support them no matter where they are.